Well, they thought they had him. The judges thought they boxed him in. The media thought they had the perfect narrative. But once again, they underestimated Donald J. Trump because in one savage move, he just flipped the entire trade war script on its head and exposed the media for the freaking frauds that they are, guys. Guys, the White House reporter, you probably have already heard about this, right? There's a White House reporter that just absolutely got publicly humiliated after accusing President Trump of chickening out on tariffs. And the president, well, let's just say he didn't even bother responding. He unleashes a point-by-point masterclass that leaves the room completely stunned. But that was just the beginning, because while CNN and Wall Street, they smugly cheered a court ruling that tried to block Trump's tariffs, President Trump was already 5 steps ahead. So I want to reveal some key points here that the mainstream media is clearly looking over. All right. I'm going to reveal the real reason why the ruling will not stop him. I want to also talk about what the buried strategy that he's been using all along to bring China, the EU, and even Saudi Arabia to their knees. And of course, Kevin O'Leary drops the truth bomb that mainstream media will not touch. And you're going to know exactly why this ruling could backfire spectacularly and end up at the Supreme Court. Guys, this is the part that the media does not want you to see. So by the end of today's video, you're going to understand exactly why this was not just some tariff story. This is actually a turning point in the global power struggle that could really decide America's future. So, guys, if you appreciate the daily news updates, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. But I also want to share with you guys the shocking courtroom fallout and why even some conservative judges are being dragged into this mess. So it's just pure chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, the battle lines have clearly been drawn because this is not just about a legal ruling. This is a calculated strike against Trump's biggest weapon in the economic war, the power of reciprocal tariffs. The U.S. Court of International Trade just did something that even the Biden administration didn't even dare attempt. They declared President Trump's tariff strategy under the International Economic Emergency Powers Act unconstitutional. Let that sink in. This is a policy designed to match other nations' tariffs with equal retaliation. It's only fair. This is a policy that finally forced China, the EU, and even friendly trade cheats like India to the table. It's now being called illegal by judges who were never elected by a single American voter anyway. Is anybody else as pissed off as I am? And what makes this even more outrageous? 2 of the 3 judges who handed this ruling down were conservative appointees. One was picked by Reagan, another one was picked by Trump himself. Backstabbers. Now, if you want proof the establishment runs deeper than you thought, well, you just got it. Guys, Trump, his team didn't hold back, though. In a blistering response, they said, it is not for unelected judges to decide how to handle a national emergency. And they're absolutely right. These weren't tariffs for fun. These were weapons in an economic war. Trump used them not to destroy, but to negotiate under fire, a tactic that no president in modern history has the guts or the balls to pull off. And so this is the part that the media won't say out loud. Trump's tariff flip-flop, it was never a flip-flop at all. The mainstream media and Wall Street elites screamed every time Trump paused or adjusted a tariff, calling it weakness, flip-flopping, and proof that he was scared. But what they called inconsistency, that was actually calculated pressure. Trump didn't just throw darts at a wall. He used real-time adjustments as a negotiation tool. When a country was dragging his feet, he ratcheted tariffs up. When they showed good faith, he eased off temporarily. This wasn't chaos. This was economic jiu-jitsu. And the results, I think it's pretty clear that the results speak for themselves. India and Taiwan dropped their tariffs down to 0. Vietnam, Cambodia, Argentina, they all came to the table. Even the EU, smug and resistant, they cracked and they begged for talks after being hit with a 50% tariff. Does that really sound like a man who's bluffing? But the media, of course, they couldn't let that narrative survive. That's where essentially this reporter hit job comes in, right? This is where the taco trade lie started. And I want you guys to understand exactly how President Trump demolished that reporter on live TV in a moment that had even CNN's panel scrambling trying to spin this thing. Guys, all I can say is this. This is where it gets personal. Trump is clearly not done, and he's about to go scorched earth on the fake narrative that they've been using to discredit his entire trade legacy, guys. Now, this is the part that they really don't want you to hear, okay? Because when the media couldn't take down Trump in court, they tried to bury him with lies that obviously got torched right from the Oval Office, right? But let's talk about the trade taco, or the taco trade, or whatever they're calling this thing, right? A term invented by smug Wall Street analysts and parroted by a disrespectful White House reporter who thought she had the perfect soundbite to embarrass Trump. In front of the press, in the Oval Office, this so-called journalist stood up and smirked. So, Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called taco trade. They say Trump always chickens out on his tariff threats, and that's why the markets are higher this week. Chickens out? Chickens out. Wrong president, sweetheart. That man across from you doesn't blink when he's going head-to-head with Beijing, Berlin, or big tech. And Trump, he didn't dodge. He didn't deflect. He unleashed. Chicken out? You mean when I took China from 145% down to 100 and then told them to open up their entire market? You mean when I hit the EU with a 50% tariff and they called me begging to meet? Yeah, that's right, guys. He dismantled the question line by line, cited $14 trillion in new investment pouring into America, pointing out how under Biden the country was stone cold dead, exposed the media's willful ignorance of basic negotiation tactics. And he said, if I go from a ridiculously high number and lower it slightly to get them to the table, that's not chickening out, that's winning. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just a slap down of a dishonest reporter. This was a masterclass in exposing the entire legacy media's game. Because while President Trump is out here breaking records and rebuilding the middle class and getting countries to fold without firing a shot, you got CNN and MSNBC and every other overpaid panelist still pushing the same old lies that Trump is out of his depth. But he didn't just prove them wrong. He made them look like some amateurs. Now, of course, I want to share with you guys how Kevin O'Leary, yes, Mr. Wonderful himself from Shark Tank, destroys the media's case and confirms that Trump's so-called chaos was actually the greatest trade strategy in modern U.S. history. So I think you guys are going to fully understand why, even if the courts block his favorite hammer, Trump's already picked up another one, and the globalists, I think they might already know what's coming. Now, Medicare should not be a source of stress. In fact, it should give you peace of mind. That's where Chapter delivers. Leslie Taylor, she saved $1,000 a year now. Sharon Bertusik, she went from losing Medicaid to getting on a new plan, thanks to Chapter, with zero premiums, zero cost meds, and copays ended up getting slashed from $89 to $20. No pressure, no confusion, just peace of mind. And did I mention it was free of charge? It's completely free to call Chapter. They don't even charge you. Unbelievable. Give them a call right now. Phone number is 909-563-8279. Or better yet, hit them up on the web at askchapter.org/Ron. Guys, you deserve a plan that actually works for you. Now, after President Trump blew the doors off the fake taco trade narrative and exposed the press for gaslighting the entire country, you would think that the legacy media might pump the brakes a little bit. Nah. No, they doubled down. They rolled out the usual suspects, market analysts, left-wing professors, economists for hires, all parroting the same lazy take. Trump's tariff strategy was chaotic, unpredictable, unsustainable. The court ruling is a win for stability. But then, of course, something incredible happened. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful himself, he went live on the Big Money Show and he just completely torched the narrative. He didn't hedge. He didn't stutter. He looked straight into the camera and said, look, Trump still has all the tools. What he lost was the shock factor of slamming a country with 145% tariffs out of nowhere. But the strategy, it worked. And then he explained something that made Wall Street squirm. Tariffs weren't just a policy. They were a warning shot. Even like every country from Mexico to the EU to India started negotiating harder because they knew Trump meant business. They didn't know if he was going to be bluffing or not. They didn't want to find out. So they came to the table and they came fast. Trump made unpredictably his currency, right? Like that's brilliant. And Kevin O'Leary said that he said it very plainly, actually. Now, even a 10% baseline reciprocal tariff is enough. The market expects it. The world expects it. He already won. This is what the court and the media refuse to admit. They think that the ruling stopped Trump. They think it stripped him of his leverage. But the truth is, he already used the tool exactly how he needed to. And now it's part of the global reality. But not everybody came out a winner. Because while big auto, big tech, and big government insiders could weather the storm, there was a whole other group caught in the crossfire. Small business owners. In fact, in particular, a paper planner entrepreneur. She became the face of the lawsuit that brought the tariffs to court. And she wasn't alone. This wasn't some Soros-backed leftist operation. This was the New Civil Liberties Alliance, a nonpartisan group often considered conservative. They're the same people who helped take down the Chevron doctrine at the Supreme Court. They argue that Trump's use of the IEEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, to blanket every country with tariffs was unconstitutional and crushed small businesses without due process. And look, that argument resonated because, as Dagan McDowell pointed out, these small shops don't have lobbyists. They don't get subsidies. They don't get bailouts. But here's where it gets a little complicated, to say the least, and raw. Dagan dropped the truth. General Motors wouldn't even be alive today without a 25% tariff from the 1960s known as the chicken tax. The very kind of policy critics now say Trump shouldn't be allowed to use. Well, that one tariff saved GM. It saved Ford and Chrysler for 60 years. But today, when Trump uses similar tactics to protect American workers and factories, they call it illegal. So what is it, folks? Do we protect American jobs or not? Or do we only protect certain American jobs when it benefits globalist mega donors and politically connected CEOs? This is the civil war that's happening inside the economy right now. Main Street versus Davos, welders versus weasels. And Trump's tariffs lit the fuse. Now, this fuse may have actually reached the courtroom because this fight is heading to the Supreme Court. And the next move Trump makes, this could shake the system all over again. So after the media smear job failed, after Trump clowned a reporter in front of the world, and of course, after Kevin O'Leary nuked the globalist narrative, there's one question left. Well, what happens now? Is the trade war over? Well, not even close. Because just as the court tried to shut it all down, President Trump's legal team was already preparing for the next battlefield, and it is a big one. This fight is going to the Supreme Court. You see, guys, this wasn't just a slap on the wrist from a lower court. This was a direct challenge to presidential authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, also known as the IEEPA. A tool that's been used by presidents for decades, including for sanctions, military funding, and immigration policies. President Trump's team, they know the stakes. Like, this isn't about trade. This is about the presidency itself. And they're gearing up to make the case. If the president can't respond to an economic emergency with tariffs, then what can he do? This, and guys, and get this, this case isn't coming from a liberal benched packed with left-wing radicals. 2 of the 3 judges who blocked Trump's policy were conservatives. One was appointed by Reagan, one by Trump himself. So this is why it's even more than political. It's systemic. It's establishment versus disruption. It's the rule book versus the wrecking ball. And Trump, he's not just fighting to restore his own power. He's laying the groundwork for every future America First president to carry the torch. But even if the Supreme Court upheld the ruling, even if the IEEPA door is closed, Trump still holds the keys to other doors because he's not out of tools. Section 232, still alive. used to protect steel, aluminum, autos, semiconductors, and national defense supply chains. Section 301, still active, used to punish unfair trade practices, especially from China. WTO leverage, still on the table. Trump's team is already crafting a new tariff baseline that's completely legal, even under this current court ruling. So let the globalists cheer. Let the media claim it's over. Let the Wall Street elites high-five each other over $5 shrimp cocktails in Davos, because they just made one fatal mistake. They think Trump needed 145% tariffs to win, but the truth is, guys, he already won. He changed the rules. He forced world leaders to respect the U.S. again. That, guys, that's respect. He taught every future president how to bargain from strength, not from surrender. And now he gets to do it all over again with the legal spotlight, public attention, and a rallying army of Main Street media or Main Street patriots right behind him. But folks, before I end this video, there's one more battlefield you need to know about, because while all of this plays out in courts and press rooms, something even bigger is happening behind the scenes, and it involves China, AI, and the future of global dominance. This final shock here, the war over chips, research, and American innovation. President Trump sounded the alarm. Kevin O'Leary, he confirmed it. And if we lose this one, there's no tariff high enough to be able to buy this thing back, okay? So, of course, while the judges are patting themselves on the back and the media is spinning yet another lie, while the political class bickers over who can golf better on CNN, there's something way more dangerous that's happening behind the curtain. On the very same show where Kevin O'Leary dropped the truth bombs about President Trump's tariff genius, he also sounded the alarm on something that was way more chilling. We're losing the tech war fast. We've lost 40% of our chip makers in China. We're down $5 billion in export revenue, and now we're no longer number one in global research. Let that sink in. America is no longer number one. And according to Kevin O'Leary, China just leapfrogged the United States in scientific leadership. They now have more top-ranking research institutes than we do. And they're not stopping at paper and patents. They're racing toward AI dominance. This isn't theoretical, guys. It's existential. If China leads in AI, if China controls the chip supply, if China owns the infrastructure for quantum computing, biotech, surveillance tech, defense software, then America doesn't just lose the trade war. We lose the century. And then what do? Well, we argue over whether tariffs hurt somebody's paper planner business. That's the divide that Trump was trying to bridge. He knew tariffs weren't just about steel and aluminum. They were about strategy. And, they were about, slowing down a hostile regime long enough for us to wake up, build up, and strike back economically. But thanks to these judges, thanks to these media puppets, we're about to hand the CCP a gift-wrapped opening to undercut the last line of American industrial power. And let's not forget, Trump warned us loudly. He said, look, we're way too dependent on China. He said globalism would destroy us. He said this was more than trade. It was survival. And he mocked for it. He was mocked for this thing, guys. They made fun of him. They said he was, just full of hyperbole, exaggeration. But now even Kevin O'Leary, a Canadian businessman with no MAGA hat from Shark Tank, just admitted Trump was right. We're in a technological death match, and the next president better come in ready to fight like hell for American sovereignty. I'm just saying. And this brings me to the final thing that I wanted to share with you guys today, because when the dust settles from the court battles, the tariff wars, the media propaganda blitz, there's one question that matters. Are we going to let these unelected judges and smug journalists hand China the future, or are we going to fight like hell to take it back? So let's bring it all home. Essentially, because what you just heard, what you just witnessed, this is more than just a courtroom battle, a media beatdown, or a strategic reveal. This is a warning. Look at the facts, right? The court tried to block Trump's strongest economic weapon, but instead they exposed how effective it really was. The media pushed a bold-faced lie mocking Trump with taco trade spin only to get torched on live TV. Kevin O'Leary confirmed everything. Trump's tariffs worked, his volatility was strategic, and the U.S. could still dominate if we stay on offense. Small businesses and American factories are caught in the middle, but make no mistake, this is a war for our economic soul. And while the court may have clipped one of Trump's tools, he's still got a whole full legal arsenal and the world knows it. Meanwhile, China's closing in on chips, AI research, tech supremacy, while the elites tell you to calm down. Eat bugs while we eat steak. This isn't about tariffs. This is about truth, power, and whether America still has the guts and the balls to lead. Because here's what nobody on CNN will say. Trump exposed the system. He shattered the old rule book. And even when the judges try to block him, he finds another path. That's why they fear him. That's why they lie about him. And that's why the stakes in this particular election, in this economy, was so important. And in this trade war, they may never have ever been higher, to be honest. So here's the question for you guys. Do you believe Trump was bluffing? Do you now see that this was the long game all along? And more importantly, do you want leaders who negotiate from weakness or from strength? Do you want leaders who look the EU, the CCP, and Wall Street in the eye and say, look, we're done playing nice. America comes first. Now, if you're fired up about everything that we discussed after this breakdown, do not scroll on, guys. Like this video, drop a quick comment. Do you support President Trump's tariffs or not? And more importantly, I want you to share this video before YouTube buries it, because the media, they already tried to rewrite this story. You saw what really happened. Now it's your turn to get loud. Trust me, guys, this story is far from over. We'll see you next time.